But remember that cultured foods have an acidic nature, even though they metabolize alkaline, like a lemon is acidic outside of the body, but when you bring it in, it's got nice potassium levels, it mobilizes alkaline ash minerals in the body, and it alkalinizes you rather than acidifies you. Lactic acid fermented products do the same thing, so don't be worried about having an acidic condition. That's another concern. That's not the way they metabolize. So the pH of the product needs to be low enough. So on the pH scale, 14 would be most alkaline, or 14 above, 7 is neutral, and 0, of course, is acid. Well, with a cultured food, because it is an acid food and it's a lactic acid fermentation process, by law, the FDA requires you to have your pH below 4.0, ideally 3.8. Our cultured vegetables and Immunitrition are 3.47, 3.55, and 3.57. Each of our blends are well under the recommended FDA limit for pH. When you have a pH like that, Robin, you cannot have invading pathogens. They will not survive in that acidic environment. Only the good bacteria do. And they're so hardy that they will crowd out anything that may come in contact with them. So rest assured that when you get cultured foods and you see that they might separate into curds and whey, like yogurt might, or it's bubbly, or it's a little sizzly on your tongue, that's a good thing. And we just have to kind of spell this out for everybody so they're not afraid to try these wonderful health-giving foods.
Of course. Now, I have read your thoughts on the process of making fermented veggies, and you don't use salt, or you don't always use salt. What is your thoughts on salt? Because I'm curious personally, because sometimes I use a culture and sometimes I use salt and whey, or sometimes I just use salt.
There is salt in our cultured foods. It's in celery juice. It's organic sodium.
Yes.
We just don't add it in the form of sea salt. Now, is it as salty as adding sea salt? No, but it's enough that the crowd out of the pathogens is there. And also you have to remember, not only salt was put into the picture for two reasons. Yes, to create sort of like a barrier for pathogens, yes. But when we add salt to cabbage and we pound the cabbage, what does it do? It releases the organic water from the cabbage to create a brine. I think the most important thing, even beyond salt, is to keep anything that you're doing with cabbage or fermented vegetables anaerobic, meaning away from oxygen. The only way to fully have an anaerobic culture process or fermentation process is to keep something under juice or brine. So even if you don't salt it, which celery juice has that salt content, you have it submerged in the celery brine juice, and that keeps the pathogens away. Mold, yeast, and fungus love oxygen. That's why the top of your culture may get some little critters that grow on it if you allow the veggies to stick out of that juice. But if you have a nice weight on there, maybe just a casserole dish that's filled with water, that can be a nice weight to sit inside a square container or some kind of bucket that you're using. That way, nothing really can invade. And because there's organic sodium in the celery juice and we're using an anaerobic process, that creates the perfect environment for culturing. Make sure that your vegetable products or your fruit chutneys or whatever you're going to do with actual fiber foods, root vegetables or fruits, that they're under the brine. Don't be afraid to taste as you go, but if you taste something, don't put the spoon back into the jar to taste. Always use a clean spoon because your mouth is teeming with bacteria and you can contaminate your cultured foods. So even if you're tasting while culturing, use always a clean utensil. Wood would not be the best way to go because wood can have bacteria grow in the cracks, so stick with your regular stainless steel if you can. And then also with regards to when the cultured food is done, it's kind of my own individual thing. Some people like really sour and bubbly. Some people like slightly sour with more crunch rather than a mushier cultured veggie. Or I'll also recommend with dairy that you keep an eye on it. It can easily, especially as you culture successive batches after your first batch, and use that first batch for the second batch and use a little from the second for the third and so on and so forth. We call that transfers. We teach all of this in our Certified Healing Food Specialist training, by the way. And we give you all different kinds of educations about starters and activators and grains and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking culturing grains, not grains that we eat. Don't be afraid of the process. Start with small batches or just one jar, because if you don't do it right, you don't waste a lot of your time and money on losing 10 jars that you did. So start small, integrate it slowly into your diet so you don't have too much of a die-off, because cultured foods are really, really powerful. They're much more powerful than supplements, and I'll give you an example. Our cultured vegetables in 1 gram, and this is the lab analysis that Dr. Mercola helped us do, 1 gram of our cultured vegetables, using Dr. Mercola's complete probiotics as an inoculant to activate the culturing process for our vegetables, 1 gram has 54 billion organisms. 1 gram. 6 ounces per day, that's like taking 136 to 140 probiotic capsules of Dr. Mercola's capsules in 1 day. Don't be afraid of the process. Start small so you don't overwhelm yourself and lose money and time. And then experiment. Be creative. The process is very, very forgiving. And try new things. Don't be afraid. Another quick thing to remember is with onions and garlic, all the aromatics, chili peppers, leeks, anything, ginger, all those aromatics, use a very small amount. In fact, 1 or 2 inches can go over 5 or 6 jars and still be really powerful in the taste of and the flavor of your cultured foods. So with the aromatics, think of minimal with those.
Carolyn, I know another aspect of your work encompasses fertility enhancement, working with future parents to create an optimally healthy situation to start a family. Tell us about this part of your work.
First and foremost, I want to say I love how you use the word parents, because it's not just the woman, it's the man and the woman. 50% of the DNA of a baby comes from the man and 50% comes from the woman. And male sperm factors are very important in the health of a pregnancy. Male sperm factors meaning the DNA inside the sperm. The sperm can have a perfect shape or morphology. It can have a perfect midpiece or tail. But what's on the inside is determined by the health of the male and what he's exposed to in his job, the stress levels in his life. Men tend to, and I don't want to stereotype too much, but men tend to go for the fast food a little more. And when they're bachelors, they don't cook. And women are more worried about their weight and what they look like, so they're a little bit more mindful about their diet. So, I do want to focus on both parents. And yes, I do work with preconception preparation. Both male and female are required at all consultations. I educate the man on how to get his sperm healthy through diet, and I get the woman's body detoxified, because the womb is a source of detoxification for a woman. Unfortunately, the uterus sheds every month, and it does shed toxins. So that's a pathway for the body to move toxins. So we have to get her body very clean so that her womb is less of a source of toxicity, and that increases fetal implantation and a healthy pregnancy. So we work on both the male and the female. We work with strictly diet and supplementation. I do one test. It's called a sperm chromatin structure assay, SCSA test, and it determines the health of the DNA inside the sperm. So 4 to 6 months, we do therapy. Why? Because male sperm, spermatogenesis happens every 84 to 91 days. So we want to see what the sperm is like when we start, do the therapy for 4 to 6 months, and know that we have a new batch of sperm being born that we'd love to get pregnant from. And then we work on the female's body, too. And that's fertility enhancement.
Many thanks to Carolyn Barringer. Immunitrition.com is the way to reach out to her for any guest information. To listen to archives and share resources, it's tributariesradio.wordpress.com. I'm Robin Clare. Thanks for staying tuned.